yellow Game Boy Color. Are you there?
Oh, it's gorgeous. Does it have the Pikachu on it?
It's got the
Oh,
game still in it.
I'll accept it. I'll accept it. I'll accept it.
It's got the game still on it, and it also has a picture of. Well, it has a picture of me as a child on it. But it's like a picture inside of a picture. It's like the smallest picture you've ever seen. So I can't really. I have separately. I took it out, so I'm putting it back in. I have my Game Boy Color that I had originally before I got the yellow one. The one that I used whiteout ink, and I went over this, and I had no idea what I wrote on top of it, and I did that over there too. And I tried scratching the top off, but the bottom still got the shit on it. But that's got red. On the screen.
Very nice.
It's got red. What about the screen?
Just you try to scratch it off. There's all those scratches on there.
Well, I did it as a kid. Man.
Yeah.
I do see that the scratches are bad.
Yeah.
Like I did it as like a 12-year-old where I was like, what the fuck did I do to my Game Boy?
It's not like I was accusing you of doing this last week.
Yeah, that's true. So I got those. What else is in here? I have Pokemon Emerald that I bought as an adult. So, listen, they're just in a little sandwich bag. I have the Pokemon card game.
That's a quality game. Quality Game Boy game right there.
I have Silver in here as well. And this was my favorite
by
far.
It is the best Pokemon game.
It's probably Crystal.
Sure. It's the amalgamation of the two. Sure.
One if you can, because it has the Articuno plot line. It's like that was like really cool.
When I judge a Pokemon game, I'm talking about that whole generation, to be fair.
Oh, sure.
And so whatever the yellow crystal version of that is obviously the peak of that generation.
Red and blue are better than yellow. Hot take. I don't like that you don't have this, that you're gated into starting a Pikachu, because it makes it that the replay value isn't really quite the same. Like you can't do 3 runs as a kid.
It has the Surfing Pikachu minigame if you went to Toys R Us, though, which was very fun.
Yeah, it's worth having, but it's the least good of that generation, in my opinion. Just for that reason, it is actually kind of fucking crazy brazy that you start with an electric. That's like pretty damn powerful. But it's unlike Crystal, where you have all of the extra content and you still get to choose your starter Pokemon. Like it just Crystal was by and far the best way to play the second gen. Third gen is where Emerald is, right? I only just barely played it, and this is what I did, because I started it as like an adult. I like got it. I didn't play that at all. I think I got it when I was like maybe like 20, 22, somewhere in that range. And what I did is I got an Abra, and I did the Abra trick, and I made it into an Kadabra, and then I petered out of the game because that was no longer interesting. Because I burnt myself out just like purposely making the game as unfun as possible so that I could get a Kadabra, because I always wanted, 1, to catch the Abra, 2, to actually evolve it. I don't know even how good that Pokemon is in Gen 3, function-wise.
So as a kid, getting that was one of the best games I had ever played. Ruby, I got Ruby. I was like sitting on the edge of the couch like this, looking for my mom to come back. And I'm just going to assume he can still hear me. And when I got it, it was just everything that was good about Pokemon games taken to the next level. You could still hear me the whole time, right?
Yeah, I could hear you.
And it added so many new things. I really loved it. But when I look back, I truly appreciate how much they just jammed so much amazing and innovative things into Gold and Silver that I have to give it to that. They did the day, night, morning thing so well. Different events at different times of the year. They went balls to the wall with Gold and Silver. And even the other kinds of improvements they did, they just seemed like generational video game improvements rather than taking like a leap forward in like actual gaming innovation like they did with Silver and Gold.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that you're all I don't know whether or not this is pop psychology, but people talk about how there's only so many people that you can know and hold like unique information about in your brain. And the thing that's nice about Gen 2 is that was like the perfect amount of diversity where no Pokemon was necessarily completely forgotten. By the end of Gen 3, I think that you hit a critical mass where you start lumping Pokemon into clusters.
Yeah.
And you stop thinking of them as unique. Like
The clusters are like this:
Pokemon 1
matter,
designed,
don't matter.
Well, I wasn't even going to say it that way. I was going to say like you. Oh, these are your fire starters.
Yeah.
Twisted Fire Starter. You remember that song? I'm sorry. It instantly comes in my mind every time. Now.
But before the third gen came out, I was the kid that you could literally say any number and I would know what Pokemon was that number.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah, I was.
That's like that's an extinct form of autism. That's a type of autism that has gone the way of the dodo.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was like the kind of kid when people would see me and be like, "Oh my god, this kid is really smart," just because I'd memorize shit like obsessively. Like I collected Goosebump books, I could tell you any given book for the number. There was like 1 through 52 of them. You'd say the number and I could tell you the book, stuff like that. Because I was always heavily rewarded for being smart when I was a kid, so I just like all the things that the adults in my life were impressed with. Those are the things that I
Did you hear?
did.
Have I told? I shouldn't spoil it too much. I have. Have I told? I've definitely talked to you about my video on. It has different names. It has different names and different things that could be its central piece. Personally, I think the most important part of it, though, is what I call Armchair Supernova. That's like one chapter of it that I think is the most important. And it is this thing where it's like...
Is that the thing I helped you edit?
As a millennial, the key difference between millennials and any other generation is that we had access to information technology that people older than us didn't have access to during their development.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we were like overly rewarded for knowing things,
that were easy to know.
Things. You were not rewarded for doing things, and one of the reasons that I think that the modern political and social environment is the way that it is that you have a culture and you have a political dialogue primarily captured and defined by people who think that knowing is supreme to acting, is supreme to doing. And the big tension that you have now is that Gen Z is so about doing. And knowing things is not cool. Knowing things is like, I mean, for lack of a better word, knowing things is a thing of the past. You can know anything by checking the internet and finding it out. And if you're wrong, there's no consequence to being wrong. It's not like your ego takes a hit in the way that millennials do. We really were fed with the idea that a person's value comes from their ability to learn, understand, and memorize information.
Yeah.
Now you have like the sort of social justice movement kind of as like the hotbed for showing you the primary difference between Gen Z and Gen Y, which is that they are so about action and so not about knowledge that they will act even if they don't know anything about the thing they're acting about, which is why the Starbucks thing is such a clear generational divide in it making sense. People who are in Gen Z, if you try telling them, well, hold on, that's the past CEO of Starbucks. Starbucks isn't in Israel. You're boycotting this thing. And they'll say, so you can't give up the coffee? It's not that easy. And it's like, no, we're saying that it doesn't do anything. We're saying it doesn't to any end. And they're saying something needs to be done and you're just lazy. They don't care about knowledge as much as they care about action. You can act before knowledge, and then if you were wrong, so what?
Yeah, and the outcome is irrelevant.
The only time that it is wrong to act is if it is actively against some other thing. And truly, whose job is it to know things and whose job is it to listen? It's Black people and gay people's job to know things by birth, a sort of like identity-based I mean, it's a lived experience, as we call it, epistemology.
I'm listening.
And then,
let's get my water.
Yeah, for sure. And then, like, anybody that is outside of the struggle that is, like, being talked about, they're supposed to listen and believe, and if they have any dialogue with it at all. And I'm not even complaining. It's just, like, that is the generational divide. I do actually think that the lived experience thing has a substantial point to make, but it's been too much in the opposite direction. I would be much more interested in Black academics understanding, specifically a Black academic historian of Black history in America's understanding than just any Black guy. And also more than just any random historian. Specificity does and lived experience does actually matter. There's a synergy there, but it seems like the cultural divide is on that scene is so generational. There is no merge point.
So I have to
Anyway,
go back a little bit to what you said about knowing is a value. When I was in my early 20s, like the second woman I was ever like sleeping with ever, I was thinking about dating her, and oh no, we did. We dated for like 2 days after we were sleeping together for like 2 weeks, and her adopted mother, there's an 18. She was 18. I was 17. Her adopted mom was 18. I was 17. She was 17. An 18-year-old adopted a 17-year-old just to get her out of her house. And it's like, I'm going to put on this documentary. And the mom, so to speak, was like, hell yeah, let's watch this. And the chick I was sleeping with was like, oh, I hate learning. And I was like, I'm breaking up with you. Like, immediately, like, just like that. I was like, I'm breaking up with you.
it's crazy.
I was like, we can
crazy,
still
and
fool around, but, like, I can't do this. It was
it's
so
also one of the
egregious.
reasons why. So here, a lot of people will say age gap stuff. They'll emphasize age gap stuff a lot, and I kind of get what they mean when they say something like, "What do you have in common with that person?" But I don't think it's about the age in raw.
It's
There are
values.
certain generational points that shouldn't date other generational points, not because it's rape, not because it's predatory, but because it's like this person experiences life the way that, like, the difference between you and this person is like the difference between Fred Flintstone and like Fry from Futurama. You live in such divorced worlds. They remember growing up and they come from your world, but they think of it as a distant memory. The idea of a world that is about, set things that are set and stable and in place. They live in the world of perfect chaos. Nothing makes sense ever. You're constantly grasping and grappling. And I don't think I think that you are a modern person and you keep up with modern topics, but you aren't a person who, when they went to school, had to like frequently. I didn't either, to be clear. I'm a little bit younger than you, so I could say we didn't go to school at a time when there were assemblies about what to do if a school shooting happens.
Right.
That's like a major shift in perspective about the world. So whenever you two have like long-term plans, I'm going to tell you right now, I think that anybody born late enough that they don't remember 9/11 or they don't remember like the sort of like institutional fallouts of it, they're in a unique place to not date people that grew up and experienced 9/11. They are in a unique place to like, they've never known what it's like to like walk outside of their house and nobody thinks that they're going to get kidnapped, go to school, nobody thinks they're going to get shot, go into an airport, everyone's smoking and sucking each other off in the bathroom. They don't understand the raw concept, I guess, of what we would call freedom, but it's not just freedom. It's the psychological perspective of feeling safe. They've never felt safe. They've instead felt like, by and large, somebody, some idea, some, other thing needs to like redeem this extremely unsafe world that is constantly rife with danger. Or they're the other type where they're like, the world's unsafe and I'm living in that fact and I'm going to make it less safe. There's like,
It's
no
just probably
historicity to it. They can't imagine a
that's
safe
probably the
world.
more sane reaction to it. But I've experienced both sides of that spectrum. My wife is 7 years younger than me, but my ex-wife was 17 years older than me. So I've seen both sides of like the divide. It was really interesting being with somebody who's 17 years older. Though like a lot of stuff that I did would just be like magic almost, because she was very like, she couldn't text on her phone. I was 22 and she was 39, and like the fact that I could text really fast, like she's actually said to me, she's like, I think it's really sexy when you type like you're like, you mean like just like this, and I just like search something. She's like, oh yeah. To her, this is like an image of like tech savvy and intelligence. Which I'm like, I'm just going to play Zanga poker on Facebook. Okay.
Yeah,
like,
hacker mode.
yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. Massive rewards for previous generations for knowing things and learning very basic skills. I've noticed this with YouTube, the video essay. It is like the premier. It is the premier like what a millennial should be doing. If you ask any millennial, what do they think they would do if money was no option, what they should do, and most of them would say they would want to be a teacher. Almost unequivocally, they would continue
Gross.
going to school, learning, and becoming a teacher. I think that there was a period of time where one of the biggest things people were doing was saying, "Oh, we got to support school unions." That was like a very boomer, very Gen X. You're not going to get, the Pepsi generation. They're like, you know what? If only teachers were paid more, because aren't they the owners of the future? Nobody believes that anymore. There's no reason to believe that anymore. You know what teachers are? They're underpaid.
They're on borrowed time.
Lifeguards.
They're on borrowed time too.
They're on borrowed time, but like a teacher's primary job is to not get assaulted
and not
have like a YouTube video posted of them defending themselves from getting assaulted. Like that is the new like fact in America, is that if you try really hard to teach people and they're resistant to it, and you are like, listen, this is the only thing that matters in life. You're like at the forefront of a culture war between two generations with completely opposite epistems. And they're like, oh yeah, old man? You think you're so smart? How about you step to me? And you're like, I literally do not understand why you besting me in a fight will prove anything about your authority over me. They're like, you're trying to learn me something. You're trying to learn me something, and I could kill you.
Yeah.
I could literally kill you, and I'm supposed to learn something from you. It's like, what is going on?
That's literally prison mentality.
It is prison mentality, but Jesus Christ! Speaking of prison, your dog's got a racist bark. Do you know that? Do people tell you that?
I trained her to do that. I am now living in a low-income neighborhood. That's the bark she's supposed to have.
That's true, I guess.
Because you don't have to be the race.
Really mad that I talked to like when I first
moved the
in,
bark.
He's evicted now. But when I first moved in, I tried I looked at his dogs and I didn't put my hands over the fence, through the fence.
Oh, he did tell me about this.
I crouched down and I just made eye contact with them because I thought they were sweet. And I just wanted to look at them and give them a bit of attention in a way that was non-invasive. And he got so pissed.
Yeah, I remember. You told me the day it happened.
What the hell are you doing? Get the fuck away from my dogs. Didn't understand it fundamentally.
You're bothered by it.
Culture difference. A dog is like, in this neighborhood, a dog is a gun that you feed. It's Derek Chauvin on a leash.
See, my dog is a child that looks like a gun and sounds like a gun. You've met my dogs. You know they're babies.
I met your dogs. I know.
But they can look scary, which is really half the job. It's like a surveillance camera. It's going to prevent half the crime just because people see it.
Sure, yeah. And, I don't know, it's like leaving your lights on, or I talked to this about, I told someone this yesterday, and I still do believe it. You could end a lot of gun violence by driving a Toyota Prius.
Here's my gun.
You don't have the money for it, probably. But if you save up and you drive a Toyota Prius, you will not get shot by a cop. You will leave the gun in the car.
Dude, I have talked about so much, living in a small town, I've noticed so much, the odds of you getting pulled over are 100% tied to how nice your car is. You never see a car within the last 5 years pulled over, ever, where I used to live. But,
it doesn't even have to do with modern, man. I think the whole point is, like, anybody that cares about the environment, which is what the Prius is supposedly about, I don't care about that shit. I like that it gets good gas mileage and is relatively reliable. But if they care about the environment, they're probably not doing the types of crimes that need to be pulled over for. They're not raping, they're not murdering.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's more. I've always seen it as about class. If you can afford a new car, I don't have to worry about you.
Picked them right off the fucking tree.
Oh, even better, you can have both of both worlds. Get a car that is usually owned by an upper middle class person, but the cheapest version you can get, especially if it's like recently been rear-ended and it has damage to the rear end, that's the best type, because then you're like you're like a middle class guy that's one mistake away from pulling out the rifle. You know what I mean? That's what they want. They want you want to look like you are America's sweetheart, but on the edge of breaking.
You are the Jordan
'Cause then
Peterson
other
hypothetical.
people, normal drivers will drive better around you. They're like, I know that guy. I've seen falling down. He's gonna do it.
I mean, you could just drive any car and wave a gun out your window if you want that effect too.
Yeah, but that kind of contradicts the point of the Toyota Prius, doesn't it? Then it's a trade-off. If you're gonna do that, you might as well get into a fucking. I don't know. I don't know what the most stereotypically black car is. The bus?
Escalade?
Escalade? That's a nice one, though, right?
It is, yeah. I
I'm
don't
trying
know.
to think like what the cheapest.
I know the I know the nice the go-to Italian affordable cars is the Impala.
Yeah, the Impala's a classic.
I want a 1969 Impala. See, I don't know anything about cars, but it's like the only car I like this or a Tesla. Like I want a Tesla because it's cool and all that, but like if I wanted a car because the car is just cool, like it's like cool for being a car. 1969 Impala.
I don't want a car. I don't want a car that. I don't want
Your
a car
camera
that
did the
needs
thing.
a software update. I don't want a car with a software update. I'm sorry.
I rented one to pick up my buddy from up north, and I had it drive itself for some of the time and stuff too, and it was just so cool. And the fucking get up and go is insane. Your camera is switched again.
It's switched?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take care of it. Give me a second.
And if I'm ever not driving for a while, you can rent out a Tesla on Turo for like $200 a day. So you literally just make your car payments by not driving for like 5 days a month.
I'm about to end it all. Give me a moment.
He means the stream.
There we go. Jesus Christ. Hey. Talk to me about the topic you wanted to talk about.
I was just about to segue.
Yeah, segue in.
I was about to say, speaking of Teslas.
Usually in the Italians' cars, what's usually in an Italian man's trunk?
Children,
exactly. You want to talk to me about Lolly?
Yeah. So
you want to talk to me? Okay, can I make a couple of notes? Can I
a
couple of patterns?
Hang on. You just threw that out there, so I want to at least elaborate a little bit about what I want to talk about. So it doesn't seem like I'm just desperate to talk about. Sure. I want to talk about the discourse,
and then I'll say a couple of things that I've noticed. Go ahead and go for it.
And the implications that this discourse has on the future of Twitch poll and how creators and audiences interact with each other.
Okay, cool. So, number 1 point. 2 main creators in the space getting shit for Lolly takes right now. I guess 3, but only 2 of them are really getting them because one of them is not like defending it nearly as much as the other 2, and more importantly, is not a consumer, is merely defending it as an intellectual practice. So the 2 that are defending it that also have been caught using it or have admitted to using it. Number 1, Bosch. Obviously, you could say I actually don't like when people say he's in the space, because that's just not accurate. He's his own orbit with his own community that's very, very separate. It doesn't really watch any of the people that are in this wing of Twitch poll. And then separately also up and comer.
So sorry. Thank you very much, Froggy South, for the membership. I appreciate you a bunch. Continue.
Sort of like a female. It's like if Smith transitioned and was Asian. Food shops. In that food shop. What's going on in the background? Do you live inside of a You seem to be inside of like a Subway Eat Fresh.
I can't hear it very well, so I don't know that it's happening behind me.
It's
I
so
just have
loud.
family. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
I'm being told that it's so
It's okay.
loud.
Typical
Thank you.
Italian excuse. Hey, you talking about my family? I'm just kidding. Okay, moving forward. So yeah, Food Chops is talking about Lolly, defending her Lolly use. She gets wrapped into a bunch of chud discourse about it, obviously, and it's pretty clear to me that unlike Bosch, who is big and has something to lose, she is small and has something to gain by making herself be the lolcow of the moment, or at least she believes that.
Yeah, she can lolly up.
She can lolly up. He can only lolly down. You know, like the song "Love Me Down" by Drake. Lolly down. Anyway, so
Don't you ever accuse me of listening to Drake again. How dare you?
It's okay. It's okay. Hey, you're gonna survive this.
I thought we were closer than that.
She is a guest on the new Kicker Keep. I
Food Chops is?
don't know how to put this.
Or is this the unnamed third
Can
person?
you be? I'm not. Let me. I'm about to say a sentence.
Okay.
Don't interrupt me. You're listening right now.
Well, fucking lay it on me then. Goddamn.
I'm trying to lay it on you. I'm trying to lay it on you like a child on a bed, apparently, and tuck them in at night, and nothing else. Disgusting. This is what I'm talking about with these lolly people. I think that she is making a decision that only makes sense if you have absolutely no real life prospects for your future, and that's the saddest part of this all. Is that it's like Grace Thorpe, you know, making a bunch of content about maybe like it's a will they, won't they, but instead it's did they or didn't they between her and her father. It only makes sense. It only makes sense to make content about that stuff if you have no stake in your own personal life and the progression that it's going into. So should we be like, obviously Kicker Keep is all about degeneracy, so maybe that, I'm not going to make moral claims in one thing or the other, but I think there's something really sad about that versus Bosch, who got caught in a lie. I personally think that he's lying. He had to know what that lolly is. If you know what short stock goblin porn is, then it's one of two things. Either he's lying about not knowing that it was lolly, or the second is that he failed his one job. Your one job when you're looking at porn, your one job is that it is not someone that has been sex trafficked, or it is not a child. That's your one job as a person watching porn, to look at the thing and say, is this against my moral principles in such a way that if I jerk off to it, afterwards I will have a post-nut clarity that makes me swing from the rafters like Williams. You don't get to be the guy whose online content persona is that my job is to unpack complex ideas to a bunch of people who don't understand the nuances of the things I'm talking about, and then simultaneously say, sorry guys, the thing that looks exactly like a child, it went over my head. You see, I'm such a deep thinker, such a nuanced thinker, that I thought it was just Goblin. I thought that was Goblin.
Ironically, if you go to shortstackgoblin.com, you will find a bunch of videos of Vosh talking about such degeneracy. Weird.
I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked. But anyway, the whole point to me is like,
I definitely didn't make that website.
we are getting to a point. We are getting to the you could call it the end of the Roman Empire era of the Twitch poll scene, where viewers need controversy. Controversies are never controversial enough. So you have to make it more extreme with each iteration. We're getting closer and closer and closer to the type of thing where every single lolcow has to ruin their life. Holy shit. Guys, if you can hear me right now, what the fuck is Drazi's life? I know. I'm saying if they can hear. I'm just saying right now. I don't know if you
Honestly,
can see. I'm not watching. Hey, I'm not watching. The
honestly,
stream, so
it's
I don't even
rough.
see what's shown on stream.
Oh, you couldn't see anything. It was just noise.
Yeah, was it a fucking fire alarm
It
going
was a
off?
fire alarm going off. Yeah. I was trying to grab it and I ended up ripping it right off the ceiling.
Jesus Christ. Hey, at least it's got batteries in it.
Um, my primary concern, and I thought I was going to talk to Will on stream, but if he just wanted to chat in private, I brought it to him. I think that this has introduced the idea to the audience abroad, or broadly, that the viewers are going to have increasingly more and feel more entitled to know what the people that they watch jacket to. You see it with the ramping up of pedojacketing. I think it's going to come to the point to where you are essentially going to be a pedophile if you don't show all of your internet history to show that your porn search history is squeaky clean. We're talking
No, come on.
say
You're being insane. You're being insane.
I'm only being
Viewer,
a little
listen,
hyperbolic.
shut the fuck up for a moment. You've gone off the deep end.
I do think this.
This is your Mr. Girl black hole moment. I need you to take a deep breath. There is no world where your average viewer is going to require that somebody like the content Gestapo go through your fucking computer history. We don't know if you have multiple computers. We don't know.
No, I said internet history.
Insane. That's insane. That is literally insane.
I do think it's insane, but I do think that people are going to take some kind of approach like this. Like there's such a surge in pedojacketing now. I don't see how people are going to be able to clear their names from some of the things that people are going to get lobbed at them. Short of like proving that they aren't degenerate.
Are you ready for this one? Are you ready for this one? People are going to stop getting pedo-jacketed because they're going to stop doing weird shit on stream. We're not moving towards a future where everybody needs to reveal their entire internet browsing history. We're moving to a world where people are more cautious about what they say on stream because this controversy bait will get to... we have a perverse incentive for it to get more and more extreme, more and more complicated, to the point where somebody's going to be perhaps arrested, if not arrested, investigated as a child molester because of something that they said in jest on stream in order to get more attention. That's where we're going. We're not going to a place where people are like, something you said was sus, reveal your internet history or else we're going to go ahead and do this. People are going to naturally adapt. If it ever got to that environment, people would naturally adapt and they would just be more private, far more private. They wouldn't talk about sex stuff. They would go Mr. Rogers as fuck. They would be, you got a friend in me. Hey, guys. What's up, guys? We're going to play a little game called Dark Souls 2. It's going to go, I think we would get back to a point where, one, streaming would completely die. And two, what would be left, the sort of like barren husk of it, would be people who, if somebody tried to fuck with them, they would retaliate in such a way that they would go to prison for their retaliation. Something close to like what Destiny threatens to do. And if they, or they're a person who is so content and brand friendly that the entire landscape of Twitch has to change and they won't have enough people standing around. All those extra people will go to Kick. Kick will become the new place. That cycle will migrate until entropy basically just makes people say, I'm not going to go to the next website to watch Kai Cenat look at a girl's butt, and then us be like, you know, she's 16 though, and he'll be like, pause. It's that we're gonna get out of that content by force. Even if we still like it, it will be gone just because it's too dangerous to the person's individual life.
Yeah, I also think that.
I mean, look at Mr. Girl, dude. I just want to say, Mr. Girl, you love him. I like a lot of the art he's made. I don't even dislike him as a person. That's not where this is going. Can you think of like a more clear-cut case example of the eclipse of content martyrs? People who put their heart and soul and risk their life to make something that is interesting and what's provocative. You can't do that anymore. People will ruin your life. They will try to get you killed, or they will try to ruin your life in another way. They'll try and convince you to kill yourself. They'll do anything. That is like the new fun. The new fun is sort of like parastochastic terror. You need to be. I'm, as a chat member, typing in, this is your IP address. I just sent this clip to your mother and the feds. See ya.
Yeah, I also worry about people not being able to be as authentic online as well. I think that this is I think that there is I don't know if you agree, but I do think that there is a sense of entitlement the viewers are getting from this because they're being heavily rewarded for being so ravenous about something that should really be private. And that's on Vosh too. I'm not saying it's the viewer's fault that Vosh is getting it.
Kind of. Well, Vosh has
earned
cultivated. Vosh has cultivated an audience that believes in A-logging, right? We're not going to pretend here for a moment that Vosh's audience. Yeah, sure, but I think that you can actually blame the actions in part, not the one onto other people, but the ones onto himself that have to do with his behavior. So, like, I would say that Vosh knows and has cultivated an audience that when he messes up on stream like that, the reason that this all got out, the reason that this got spread like wildfire is because one of the viewers that likes him shared it as a clip thinking it was funny. And
I never knew that.
Did you listen to my conversation on stream about this? Maybe I would say I think it was on Wednesday. Did you watch my stream Wednesday?
I don't think so. It was a busy day. I catch it when I can, though.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, I don't think so. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't think so. I think that Wednesday was a really busy day for me.
You're good. I'm listen. Am I trying to shake you for views? No. I just want to see if you have the context before I
no, I just wanted to tell you and my audience that your shit's good, and I genuinely do.
You're good. Hey, thank you.
Tuna's stream is good. You should follow him.
On Wednesday, I talked with somebody on stream who called in to talk about something with me, the aftermath of the Tuesday stream, the Wix stream that I came on. I was originally going to come on and talk more. I was wrong about the time zone difference on a bus that I was getting off of. So I was like, I'm going to show up a half hour late. Is that okay? And he was like, you can come in as a caller, but I want to start this on time. Be punctual kind of deal. But anyway, I went on at the end and I made my short statement. Of all the things that have been talked to death, whether or not Lolly is CP or should be treated similarly, morally, or anything about this, the question of, is this bad, has been talked to death like crazy, and everybody has their mind made up, and it really comes down to a baseline of epistemology, and you know, an ethic that extends off of it. But the thing that hasn't been talked enough about, in my opinion, is why we keep entertaining the question. Why are we entertaining the question? Why is the question constantly being asked? We know that the question, when it's asked, nothing gets made of it. We know that everybody has their opinions. Most people who believe that it's wrong also believe that it's undebatably wrong. And yet, they are dragged down to the level of the heathens, the disgusting, festering freaks at the bottom of culture who constantly want to say, well, wait a second, there's this and that and that and this and that and that and that. You are looking at pornography and jerking off to something that looks like a child. If you need to debate on that, if that needs to be a cultural debate, then that means that you have a secondary incentive. There is no reason to ruin your life about that type of thing. It means that everybody that's having this discussion all the time, they're desperate. They're desperate for views. They're desperate for attention. They're desperate for some kind of novelty. The world is talking about things that don't really have strong answers to them, right? There's not a strong answer. There's not a safe answer, frankly, to any of the most important things, that supposedly important things. There's just like What can we talk to? What can we talk about and feel safe the entire time? I can always talk about and feel safe saying that pedophilia is gross. I'm going to entertain and bring on somebody who is so desperate for attention, so desperate to make it as a streaming career that they will defend the indefensible for attention. I think I've gotten to the point where I know what the core is. It's not just desperation. I thought it was that at first. It's being encouraged by the culture, by everybody inside of it, as a way to trim the herd. There's not enough room in this pond. There's not enough space. Everybody who is on the low end of the totem pole needs to do something that they think will rise them up the ranks, but will actually kick them out of the space. That is what is happening. People are trying to get people out. If it's pushing F-bombs to talk about things that really he shouldn't talk about on stream, his personal life, yada, yada, people will do that. If it's to convince Lab every single time that she streams to have a discussion with someone that hates her until she goes into, 1 HP voice, freaks out, gets called a liar, and then leaves streaming for a couple of weeks, they'll do that. They will do anything. They will do anything to try and make people who are interesting and who have influence leave the space. And people who are really, really, really desperate think that they might be interesting. Almost none of them are. They're only interesting when they're willing to say the thing that nobody else should say, wants to say, because there is such a clear social detriment.
I genuinely struggle to believe that for myself I can't understand why anybody would care about cartoons. And
the morality of the cartoons. Can I? Do you want my answer?
Yeah, I think I understand.
I'm very anti-lolly.
I think I understand what people's answer is, but I just can't see how they don't feel silly when they do it.
What is my answer? What's my answer?
I think that I've seen you talk about it. You said something along the lines of that it increases this degeneracy, and then you're gonna have to you're gonna seek more degenerate things, and so it just leads to bad outcomes. Is that more or less it?
Sort of. It's not outcome based. It's not outcome based. Because I'm not, or I should say, I don't think that it breaks through a threshold where suddenly the outcomes become dynamically worse. I'm not saying the sort of slippery slope, which, by the way, I know people think slippery slope just means it means that you get to a threshold that is irrational. I don't think that. So here's my basic principle.
Portland called you soy and gay.
Why are you watching Lolly? Number one, are you a pedophile? If the answer is yes, you should do whatever you can to be less of a pedophile. You're probably not entirely a pedophile. You should do everything you can to be as little of a pedophile as possible, because that is a sexual dysfunction, is a moral, it is a moral conflict. Now, here's the number one. You can go down the other thing. Are you a pedophile? Yes or no? If you answer yes, second question, are you comfortable with the fact that you're a pedophile? And I don't mean comfortable as in do you think that it's good? I'm saying, are you scared at all that you're going to abuse a child? I'm assuming from the start that you don't think that children can consent. It's just,
right,
that you're one of those people, one of those freaks. If you have any anxiety at all, then you are harming yourself. So you shouldn't watch it.
That's a key feature of being a pedophile. If you're okay with it, you're not, I guess.
Yeah, if you're not uncomfortable, you should be. That's my other thing.
That's a different disorder, I guess. Yeah.
You should not feel safe as an addict. You should not feel safe participating in something that is a sublimation of the aesthetic properties or experiential qualities of your addiction. You shouldn't, as a person who's addicted to meth, be like, yeah, well, I can definitely drink 5 Monster Energies a day, and that can't possibly be
better is better.
Keeping me addicted to the feeling of stimulation.
Do you not think that better is better, though? When it comes to addiction, so my ex-wife was a raging alcoholic.
Sure. Yeah.
And
I hear you.
she substituted it for a different substance, which significantly reduced the destruction that she brought upon her life. And I was like, well, this isn't optimal.
What was the Hey,
She did cough pills.
I'm not going to support somebody moving from one depressant to another.
Oh, it's a
I think that's a bad
hallucinogenic,
thing to
buddy.
do. I mean, it's also a depressant, though.
So my issue is that when she drinks, she would ruin her life, like end up in jail, all kinds of shit. Whereas this, she just stays home and doesn't ruin hers or anyone else's life. So I was like, this is better.
I hear you.
If there's no clear
hear you.
solution,
I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you right now that I don't think that
this makes sense.
Actually is it. Hey, listen to me for a fucking moment.
Sorry, I just had
You've
I had an epiphany about
I
just had an epiphany about why you think this.
No. Let me finish my statement, and
Sure.
then you can share your epiphany. Okay?
Yeah.
You were making false equivalence. Watching emulated CP is not like a weaning off of CP.
I don't think of it as CP though.
Okay, listen, I don't care what you think. I care about what the person thinks when they're watching it. They're watching it for the same reason that they watch CP, right? They're using it as the...
I would think not. I would think that a lot of people watch it for different reasons.
If you're gonna go, you're complete... Okay.
But this is genuinely what I think.
What's your epiphany? Share your epiphany.
So I think... So, you and I have similar moral systems. However, when there's a tragedy for me, I will, when all choices are bad, I will defer to utilitarianism because there's no other metric by way in which I can determine bad. But for you, it's just like, this is bad. So like, just, you have to do neither. But I feel like inaction is still a choice.
I believe in virtue ethics above utilitarianism pretty universally.
But I don't like utilitarianism. Like my saying for it is that if I'm a utilitarianism in a moment, I'm facing nothing but tragedy. So I understand that, but like I don't think that
it's not even just that though. I'm telling you right now. I think that the moral harm that the pedophile does when they're not molesting a child. One moment. I'm probably going to have to get off soon. Give me a second. The moral harm that they are participating in is not... We're not talking about... They're not molesters. If we're talking about molesters, then honestly...
all bets are off.
I feel confident saying that what they need is they need to be put into they need to be forcibly put into a program that stops them from offending, because this is an instance where they're doing something that reaches consent, so they have broken the contract. Moving forward...
Sure.
Or basic autonomy. They've broken the civil contract, and they've displayed that they can't be trusted.
We have no disagreements about molesters.
If we don't disagree about that. So here's the thing. What I'm saying is, if you are watching the content, you are hurting yourself. If you watch a different type of content that is still hurting yourself, you haven't made it less bad. I don't think watching something for the same reason that there's a difference of badness here. So, to me, the only thing that you could possibly do is move away from that same shared reason and stimulus. You don't. I'll hold this out pretty damn firmly. I used to, when I did the homeless outreach stuff, believe in this concept of harm reduction, but I have seen what it does, and it doesn't actually get a person to safety. What it does is it lets them slowly rot to death. And what you're doing, if you're a pedophile and you're not taking very seriously and frankly, I don't think even pedophile is the right word for this, because it tends to be seen as an identity. But if you're a person that is dealing with a parasexuality, that any parasexuality is in conflict with your moral system, you need to cold turkey. You need to, because there's nothing else that's going to get rid of the thing. Every bit of it will make you feel shame. Every bit of it will teach your brain to say something that is an exception clause. Oh, well, this is less bad. Oh, this is more okay because of this.
Do you think that
I can treat myself?
Do you think if you jack Delali, you are like tautologically a pedophile?
Tautologically a pedophile? If you know when you're jerking off and you're in denial, or you are aware, you know why you're jerking off to it.
Right.
And that's why I always start with, why are you jerking off to that and not something else?
You never answered the other side
done.
of the first question of the tree.
I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm only talking about the people that when they're jacking off to it, they're jacking off and they're using it because they are stimulated by the appearance and the imaginative experience of being with a child. If they don't do it for that reason,
Mhm.
and I think that they are making a different type of grievous error, is that they might be nurturing a latent pedophilic desire, usually from a resentment about stifled childhood sexual experience. They are nurturing something that can become pedophilia. I have to go. I literally have to go.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I have to go. Bye.
Bye. So the thing that I wanted to bring up to Tuna with that is that I think that oh my gosh, sorry, dying. Um, the other reason that I can understand that people would engage in that kind of content is for reasons of taboo. And this is really obvious for me because that's just like a thing that I like. I like things that are like usually like, oh, you shouldn't do that. Um, to be fair, like I not when I say I don't care about drawings, I mean like in every aspect, like it does nothing for me. I prefer humans. That I guess I should specify for this, even though it feels cringy to even have to. I prefer adult humans when I'm watching pornography. So like I don't think it would do anything for me. But the any kind of like sexy stuff where like somebody might wag their finger at you, I think that's usually pretty hot. And so I think that some people might engage for it in that reason. But also I think that there's a good amount of people that are just so anime brained that they're going to end up on that. And then the other group of people that I can imagine is that their first real sexual exposure was it was like an exposure to like lolicon. And if they sort of develop their sexuality around that, that might just be their go-to thing because like that's sort of like what awakened their sexuality. Somebody like showed them some lolicon or they stumbled across it and they got their first boner, or that's like the first time they were jacked when they were like 15. They might end up going back to that. And the thing that making broad judgments about why people do that stuff is I think that it becomes really weird when a person has to explain why their sexuality is the way that it is. I think it could be really traumatic for them. Like I'm super open about mine, and that's kind of where I've definitely had conversations with people where I talked about my sexuality and they sort of felt I didn't know it at the time, but they sort of felt like pushed to like talk about theirs, and I know that that can be really traumatic for people to like talk about and have their like put their stuff out there because they're just not really prepared to go through it for themselves. A lot of people don't sort of like reason out why they're into what they're into. And when they have to do that in front of another person, I think that'd be really difficult for them. And I'm pretty concerned about people having to do that, especially like when they're put on the spot. It's not something I'm a very big fan of. That being said, I certainly don't encourage anybody to engage with lolicon, but I don't care about it. Like, I don't think you're doing anything wrong. I just don't care. But I think that the reason why I don't encourage it at all, well, plus, like, I would probably only encourage people to do, yeah, but I don't care why it's taboo. Like, everything is taboo for a reason, right? As far as the whole sexual awakening phenomenon is exactly reasons victims of CSA are so much likely to become future offenders. Sure, but that's not always a problem because if they're just into lolly because that's what they first saw, that doesn't mean it's going to become a problem. If they just stick to that because that's what they like and it has nothing to do with them having an attraction to it, that doesn't mean it's going to turn into one. It just means that they're sort of like stuck on that thing. Like I'm pretty confident that the reason why I liked older women for so long is because like my first experiences with a older woman. So for most of my life, I've been into older women. I just think that's sort of how my sexuality formed. And I just think that sexuality can be really complex and confusing even to the person. And it's not always like I've seen a lot of people talk about this like it's super cut and dry. And it just freaks me out that people are um, that I can see is moving forward that people are going to be put into weird spots where they feel like they have to explain it when it could just be something that is like fairly innocent and they don't really have any like malintent or any risk to anybody. Um, yeah, I don't really get that. Like when I was in high school, a buddy of mine had a like a binder full of hentai, and there was like tentacle stuff, there was like lolicon stuff. He just like printed it out, and I seen all that, and I was like, I was like as invested as any like 14 or 15-year-old who was like seeing somebody bringing porn into school was, but it wasn't anything that like I ever went back to. I was just like, wow, that's crazy. He gave me like two of the pictures. I think one of them was like Sailor Moon, just like naked, and I don't remember what the other one was. I had them in my room for a while, but like I never had, like I never like went to them. I had like real, like porno mags and stuff that I thought were way cooler. But I always just thought it was like part of it was just like the balls of this guy to bring it to school. But I just don't think that they're hurting anybody, and I'm totally against the idea of them going to state mandated re-educational facilities for it because they're not doing anything wrong. They're not any risk to anybody. And from what I understand, is that there is zero data to suggest that there's going to be any harm to come from it. It's just people's feelings. And I watched Chud Logic watch this like documentary about lolicon in Japan a while ago, and they said that it seems to reduce the amount of harm. The one guy said they think that it reduces the amount of like harm to children when they let people have it. And Chud said, no, 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 no. And I was like, wait, you mean even if you knew that it would reduce the harm, you still wouldn't be okay with people having it? He said, no. And this shows me that people's brains are broken about this because as a father, I would never ever say, no matter how weird or bad or icky something made me feel, that if it makes my kids safer, that's the thing I have to do. I'm not allowed to be emotional when I make decisions about what's best for my kid. I have to make the correct decision. I can deal with my emotions after the fact. Like it's the same way when I'm talking to my kid or disciplining my kid. How I feel about it can never enter into that. When I make the decision about what's going to happen, if I am mad at my kid, I talk to them after the discipline has been given, well after, so that I'm not upset when I'm not emotional. There's a time to deal with emotions. There's a time to make decisions. And I think that this stuff is everybody making decisions and condemnations while they're very emotional. It just freaks me out. It seems like every other thing that we talk about in this space, that the emotional side trumping over the intellectual side, or the side that's aligned with like facts and reason and logic, these are what we should go to. But when it comes to things like this, we should just throw that right out the door, and we're just like, okay, let's only focus on the emotional side of it. And I think that's bad. Um, and like I said, if there's people, and then we have people calling for people to like be forced into state mandated re-education, for instance, even if there's no reason to think they're going to hurt anybody. It's fucking wild to me. I've always gotten super uncomfortable my whole life when people had really emotional reasons for something and had no like reason based, like no factual based explanation for something. Especially when I was a kid, that shit really, really freaked me out because I always thought of those people as like these people. They have all the they have all the ingredients to just be like crazy. They can make super strong, they can have super strong convictions over things that have no basis in reality, and it's just how they feel. Like, what's to stop that person from like being a serial killer? It freaks me out. I think that we should always approach everything, no matter what it is, with an open mind, with like sound reasoning. Uh, Obviously, so when I think of like simulated CP, I would think of somebody like creating like very realistic images like AI or something. That's fucked. That's bad. That's akin to CP, and absolutely none of that. But like, I just don't care if it's a drawing. Um, it's. I feel it just feels like everybody's being really. I feel like I guess I know it's not the case, but it feels like everybody, like if they think about it, like has to agree with that, and that they know that they're being silly, but it's like they're caught up in like this big cyclone of everybody being really mad or something. But like because I just can't understand like caring that much about what somebody's doing when it doesn't harm anybody. um like we're not worried that any other kind of media is going to lead you to engage in the acts of the media. Like nobody's worried about people playing Call of Duty shooting people or increasing their predilections for shooting people, even if they love it. I just don't see where any of these lines that I would try to connect to this would work in any other situation. It just doesn't make sense to me. Um, I guess it's possible that somebody's going to talk to me. Do you know what the study was called? It wasn't it was like a documentary or something. It wasn't a study. He was like watching a documentary about like the people that draw it and sell it and stuff in Japan. I'm very worried about people that masturbate to violent imagery too. But why is it only sexual though? Like why isn't it like somebody's addicted to Call of Duty? Like it is like taking over their life. They have a super bad video game addiction. You might be worried about them, but you're not worried about their predilection to then engage with the fantasy. And that's where I'm confused about. Like there's people there's people that really like gangbang porn who have zero interest in actually doing it, but the fantasy's fun to engage in. There's people that really like cheating porn that have zero desire to actually cheat, and that's still like the thing that they like to fantasize about. Part of the fun of a fantasy is knowing that it is a fantasy. And I think that I guess I'm also super strongly against sexually shaming people if they're not hurting anybody, because I think it fucks people up. I know that one of the best predictors for serial killers is that they're sexually repressed. It's bizarre that you can't grasp that sexualized addiction to antisocial behavior is something we should be especially cautious about society, but we don't treat it all the same way. Or sorry, yeah, I don't think that it makes sense to only go after it like, well, if it's a sexual thing, then this is like a totally special kind of behavior that is always going to lead to. It's not true. I have no reason to think that that fantasy leads to action like that. I think that we would be much better focused on things that actually predict this stuff. So, like, for instance, if you're really concerned, whoops, if you're really concerned about people harming children, one thing that you would want to get rid of is alcohol. Alcohol is one of the largest predictors that somebody's going to harm a child. Um, and like nobody seems to care about that. Like, yeah, but people really like alcohol, so like we're just gonna let that go. I don't like alcohol. I almost never drink ever. But we don't care about that. Even though if you if you got rid of alcohol, you would get rid of like one of the most common uh, prerequisites for somebody to harm a child. But like, I can't really believe people when they say like, well, like the amount of risk that some percentage of people might end up taking the thing that they're watching and then acting out. Like, yeah, but like, why wouldn't we be worried about the things that have much greater capacity to end in this result? It just seems bizarre to me. It feels like everybody sort of has this fantasy of like just like catching the person, and we've dropped the bars down so low to where we're going after people that like uh jerk it to drawings. It's so weird. Like if you know what, I would say this: uh if people were also advocating to get rid of alcohol, I'd be a lot more willing to hear these kinds of arguments from them. But if you're not really going after the thing that is the most common prerequisite for somebody harming a child, then like I just kind of think it's full of shit. It's kind of like the person who smokes cigarettes, eats McDonald's, like, oh, I'm not getting the vaccine. I don't know what's in that shit. It's just like I don't fucking believe the ethics that you're espousing. It just seems like you just want to have a fucking issue with something, and you're picking this because you have enough people that'll pat you on the back when you act out about it. And I'm just not the kind of person to go along with something if it doesn't make sense to me. If I don't get it, if I don't think that it's correct, then I'm not going to say that it's correct. Um, and as a result, I've stood up for a lot of people that nobody wanted to stand up for in my life. And I still, for the most part, stand by, even if I'm wrong, I still stand by acting based on my understanding of the information and not how other people feel about it. I think there's a time and place for emotions, and there's a time and a place for making decisions. And I just think that people are wholly incapable of doing that with this. Um, I think that's it for now. I thinking I might. There's like a 20% chance that I'll stream later tonight. But tomorrow for sure. I got something going on tomorrow that would be fun. Also, if anybody wants to talk to me about this, I'm pretty willing to listen. I just know where I'm at with it and try to meet me where I'm at, because like the same arguments that I've been hearing. Oh, you want to come on for a sec? Okay, Ice Beans, that's fine. You totally can. I just sort of like Tuna's gone, and I sort of ran out of things to say about it, and I was gonna start repeating myself. I kept talking, but I am gonna eat this asparagus. Okay, asparagus is fire. Oh shit, I dropped it. Um, I do really hate too that if you just disagree with people, then they think you must have like a personal interest in the thing. Because I stand up for things that they don't mean anything to me at all. But I'm always going to be the kind of person that stands for the principles that I believe in, rather than whatever the thing actually is. Hey, what's up? Good day. Oh my god. Sorry for the beats. The Awakening Zone, right? Yes, it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my god, you actually used your perms. How cool of you.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. Do you have camera or no?
I do not have my camera. I just
I assumed.
just dismantled all of my setup because I'm going back to the US tomorrow, and so I actually went and got my mic and plugged it back in.
Oh, bless you. I just reset up all my stuff like 2 nights ago. So I've been working out my
Nice.
audio. It's such a nightmare.
Yeah.
Trying to redo everything because you don't know until you stream.
Yep, and I when I came to Canada, like it was only for a couple weeks, so I was using my husband's laptop to stream,
Mhm.
and I'd like backed up all my OBS stuff, and then I'd brought my like Stream Deck and stuff as well, and I hadn't backed up. I didn't realize that you have to back up like all that stuff as well, so I had to kind of I'm just so reliant on the Stream Deck now that
My
to
Discord
like
mute
switch.
doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Like I had to, I had to do it from scratch. Like streamer bot, like it. I had to. Yeah, it was a nightmare. So.
Oh, let me at least
It,
get your logo on the screen. You can keep
oh,
talking
nice.
though.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. So basically, all I want to kind of point out, is like I kind of wanted to just talk about like what you were saying at the end there.
Does it make sense why I think what I think,
yeah.
at least?
Yeah, it makes sense, but I think
Okay.
like I think the problem that I would have with that specific line of thinking, which by the way, like is, to my understanding, you're saying like if we're going after behaviors that are like harmful to kids, then we should go after the ones that are more like that have a more direct link, right?
No.
Like,
What I'm saying is that if we're really afraid that somebody indulging in a fantasy is going to lead to real action, then we should be going after other engagements with fantasy that might be just as bad, if not worse, like say Call of Duty and things like that, where you have people spending like even from childhood into adulthood, spending like 5 to 10 hours a day just shooting people. But nobody was
Right.
really worried about that. So like it seems like we're kind of like playing around with how much we really think that's the case.
well, see I think the thing is like Okay, well, there's two problems that I see with that, right? Like
Okay.
one is that at least with the violence of the video game stuff, right?
Mhm.
Like if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong. The last time I looked at it, I thought that we had kind of established that there isn't really like a link between, or at least there's not like a link between people who like, smash heads in and whatever, and like actual violence.
Right. There's also no
Yeah.
link between Lolly or even actual CP and child predation, according to like the world's foremost experts. So,
Right. Well, okay. I
but
would
people
say that
emotionally
like
feel otherwise.
yeah, of course, all right, and understandably so. Okay. At least as far as okay, I would actually separate lolly and CP, like personally.
Yeah,
I
I
know
do
some
too. I
people.
do
I know
too.
some people don't, right? And
It's
some
got to
people
be
see
bad
it as
faith, right?
I mean, it's one of those things, Drazi, where I kind of see it from like, uh, what I would say is like a normie's point of view,
Well,
right?
okay, if it's not bad faith, then I just think they're fucking stupid.
Yes and no. Like, okay, I think that how do I put this? Um, I think the success of some of these things is ultimately going to depend on like how many normies actually like will stomach it or adapt to stomaching it. Does that make sense?
Sure. I mean,
Only because like okay, so for example, if we can't get somebody like Chud Logic on board,
uh,
right? Someone who is willing to at least hear out, even if he's he's gonna have a reaction to it, right?
mhm.
If we can't have someone like Chud Logic getting on board with, using lolly as like harm reduction, then what are the chances that like your average person would, uh, come to see it as a legitimate form of harm reduction?
I don't know, but I don't know if it is. I think that it's more likely to be a form of harm reduction than like a form of like cause harm increase, though, just based on like the
Yeah.
very little data that we do have.
Mm-hmm. And okay, I'll say I don't have any data, right?
Sure.
Like I haven't looked at any data on this. I'm just kind of going off of like, um, well, then there's the second point that I do want to bring up, right? But like, I am kind of going off of vibes and also like,
Sure.
um,
Can you trust that
also
my
like,
Mr. Girl fadness has properly equipped me with the research?
no. Like I trust you, right?
Okay,
I'm
that's
not
figured.
like I'm not fighting you on the research part.
Okay.
It's just that like even with research, like for example, like you said, even with faced with the documentary, and I don't know if it like this documentary had like actual studies behind it, but
I don't
like
know
I'm
either.
just saying, let's just assume that like even if Logic were faced with studies, right, he'd probably likely have the same reaction, right?
Yeah,
I
my
would think.
problem was with his reaction. So, whether it was legitimate or not, I posed him the question that if we knew for a fact that it reduced harm, would you then be okay with it?
Mhm.
And he said no. And I'm like, you're a dad,
Right.
though. You have to be
Yeah.
okay with that. That scares me because I'm a dad, and I just have to say yes if it makes my kid safer. Like otherwise, like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm abusing my kid.
Well, okay. So this is like the second part that I kind of wanted to kind of bring up, right? That ties a little bit into it, right?
Hmm.
I think that what I would be really interested in seeing is its uh proximity maybe to other behavior which would maybe be considered risky, right? So okay, for example, if you're like drinking or smoking,
Yeah.
these things are not necessarily like considered not necessarily taboo depending on where you are, but not necessarily like taboo,
Drinking
right?
is like a pretty acceptable social behavior. Yeah, it's sometimes
Yeah,
even encouraged. Yeah.
yeah, of course, yeah. And like versus going onto a site which, for example, is considered risky, right?
Sure.
Turning off the standard like blacklist, right?
Yeah.
Because as I understand, for a lot of these sites, if there is a blacklist, then there are certain terms that are already on the blacklist. Right?
Sure.
And you have to go turn them off in
Yeah.
order to see some of these things. Like that type of thing, right?
Mhm.
And then, okay, while I'm looking at this stuff, now I might be looking at some other stuff that is just as taboo, but, I'm looking at taboo stuff anyway. I don't know. I think that, like,
It's a tough argument to make because, like, I enjoy things that are taboo. I
No, I'm
actually
not
hate
saying-
tradition for the sake of tradition, probably more than anybody I know.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, I think that, like, the average person who kind of knows what they're, like, who knows their own desires, or, like, their own...
We can say our own degeneracy, because, like, even when I go to,
yeah, that's fine.
I know other
Yeah,
people
that's
would be
fine.
upset.
Like, your own kinks or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, your own preferences. There's the word, preferences.
Okay.
Your own preferences, right? As opposed to someone who's kind of, like, discovering this stuff, or is, like, just basically just discovering this. I think that there are some behaviors that are present in that kind of thing that would not otherwise be in something like drinking or smoking. I think that's what my point is, really. And I would say that that's the difference between the two.
But sure, but I agree. I think that there's no evidence that says that somebody looking at lolicon means they're going to be more likely to harm a child. But if somebody's been drinking, there is evidence, a lot of evidence to suggest they're going to be more likely to harm children. And so we're saying this one thing that is the most common, has the most common overlap with people abusing children. And it's funny, drinking is even a bigger overlap than pedophilia itself.
Right.
So, like,
I mean,
but we're
no,
not
I
freaked
think-
out by it.
We're
Because
not.
because
I
we
think that-
don't
I
think that
it's-
increasing the chances of something maybe happening takes away somebody's agency, and as long as they engage with a thing that is going to increase the likelihood, and they don't do it, as we trust everybody for the most part not to do, then we just sort of, like, say it's fine, and we kind of, like, pretend like we don't know that this is going to be such a common factor with this. But when it comes to things that we're emotional about, we're like, well, this one we have to stop. But the thing that makes it much more likely, yeah, well, we can all actually encourage each other to do this from time to time, and it's a nice thing to do. It's weird.
I mean, I think that, like, I think it with drinking is just, like, one of those things that's, like, because of its like, it's more widespread social acceptance, and also because, like, I mean, that kind of plays into a whole lot of, like, fucking what's the word, like personal freedoms kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
My mind's blanking on the.
Well, I think it's the same amount of personal freedom, but yeah.
Yeah, but, like, and also because also the other thing too is because there's such a range of, like, what's considered okay. So, for example, like, right now I'm drinking cider. It's not, yeah, I know, right? Like, the most I'll do is get tipsy. That's it, right? I hardly ever drink, and so, like, when I do, it's like, okay, whatever, I get drunk, and, like, really, that's it. I get giggly.
Sure.
I fall over. My husband laughs at me.
And
I don't do anything crazy.
but I also understand the other side. Like, I have a very hard time drinking because I have super bad GERD. But, like, if I'm like, if it's like the first time I have a woman over to my house or something, I probably want to drink to help make me a little bit less nervous. And that was definitely, like, a go-to thing for me. So I from personal experience knows that it makes moving into sexual acts a bit easier. It takes down, like, some of your inhibitions, like your worries and concerns. Yeah. And so, like, so when I read this information and then I map it onto my own experiences, like with how I interact, like the first few times I plan on engaging with a woman in a sexual situation, I'm like, wow, that totally tracks. I can see how that people that don't even know that they have this predilection might be way more comfortable making really bad decisions like this.
Sure. Yeah, and I think, look, like, I mean, ultimately, I think I agree. I agree with the idea that, like, don't get me wrong, I do agree with the idea that, like, maybe we should be focusing more on the things that are kind of more outward, like, not outward, but, like, more obvious signs of like or obvious indicators of abuse with children. I
Sure.
think that part of the well, it's not part, like the only reason really that we're talking about this is because we have someone who kind of is outwardly saying, hey, I engage with this, right? And so to then talk about like the other factors that could put children at risk is, I mean, obviously, like it makes sense that you would bring it up, but
Like if somebody
know.
said, I like to get drunk, watch Lolicon, and then the next morning I go and volunteer at the school, like I'd be like, okay. There's like I'm worried about this person now.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
could certainly add Lolicon into an amalgamation of other factors to where I would say, okay, there does seem to be a pattern that this is now like sort of etching itself into. But I think that it's like on its own, it's just like nothing.
I mean,
Also, like,
I think.
have you met like
Yeah.
anime tarded people? They like will not watch live action anything. They only watch anime.
Wait, what? I'm sorry. What?
Have you ever met like anime like retard pilled people? Like all they watch is anime. They won't watch any live
Oh my
action stuff
god,
or
no,
anything. Okay, I've met these
no.
people and like I could see them just sort of like falling into that, like, because I know for a fact they're only going to watch hentai. I know that they're
Right,
not going to watch real people, so I can just imagine them seeing that as like part of the variety, and it never even like crossing their mind into like equating that to reach real children.
right.
Most of these people are like kind of like childish people in general, so I just think that they're not going to make this connection, and if they do, they're going to hand wave it or like laugh it off because that's not how they think about it. But everybody acts like this is such a cut and dry, very clear, easy to understand issue, but they're really glossing over like a pretty complex thing, and they're making extremely harsh decisions on people that I think that like I mean certainly some of these people I think that like I would definitely say that there's got to be some correlation there, but like grouping everybody else into that is bad. I think that holding people accountable for how they feel sexually when they're not doing anything to hurt anybody is bad.
I think the problem lies in, okay, and maybe this is where I would want to like at some point acquaint myself with kind of like the studies and shit that's out there that's
It's
related to
not
this
much,
subject.
but yeah.
Yeah. The reason that I say that is because this seems like some, okay. Um well, not issue, but like part of the fact that we have to, not fact, but like part of the like problem that we have to deal with is that, first of all, in a lot of people's minds, this is like pretty firmly associated with CP.
Right, it
Um,
is.
and I know what you were saying, that is emotional, but I think that like there's no real good way to kind of reason people out of that, right? Because it is kind of rooted in emotion. I
Correct.
personally don't know how I feel about that particular. Like, I haven't decided. Essentially, like I don't know how I feel about that specific. I like my leaning is towards it's not, right?
Yeah.
CP. But like I think that we're gonna have to deal with those people basically one way or the other, right? Like I think that's where you have to kind of start with
But I think they're
almost.
disingenuous too. I don't think they've really thought it through because I guarantee you, every single one of those people, if somebody walked up to them and showed them Lolicon on their phone, like, check this out, they'd be upset, sure. But if somebody walked up to them on their phone and showed them CP, they would very likely get violent or call the police immediately, which means they know it's not the same thing. And everybody listening knows that these are two separate and reasonable reactions to those things. And it makes sense that those person would react that way. Anybody who would react the same way to seeing Lolicon on somebody's phone, if they walked up and showed them as CP, they're fucking crazy people.
Yeah, but like I don't
So we
think
know
I
it's not
think
the
that,
same.
I mean, we know it's not the same. However, like I think that it's still something that you do have to deal with, in the sense that, like, okay, so
But we deal with
here's a really
analogous
good.
things a lot too, right? Like when people,
Yeah,
if somebody in a Muslim country kills somebody because they disrespect the religion, we condemn that. We understand that
yeah,
it's an emotional thing, and we all understand being emotional, but we go, this is fucking crazy.
This is okay. Yeah, like, this is fucking crazy. However, right? Like, okay, so and it's funny. Like, okay, yes, that's true,
Your
right?
giggles are making me
However,
nervous.
especially, well, if you're, I mean, well, I'm giggling because I used to. I don't know if you know. Wait, Jazzy, did you know this about me? I grew up in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, okay. So you know what I'm talking about, right? How
Yeah, I
heated
know
people
what
get
I
about
know what you're
religion?
talking. Yeah, I'm not exactly. And but like, here's the thing, right? And like, yes, we know that that would be like an extreme reaction, right?
Yeah,
To that something like that. However, if you're living in the country, right, you
yeah.
can't exactly like. It's kind of like a when in Rome thing, right? Like, I can't exactly say, hey, this is fucking crazy, and get taken away myself, right? Like,
Right. It doesn't mean
there is
everybody
like
wants to face the consequences, which means that's just not a country
yeah,
I can ever go to because
yeah,
I
sure, no,
can't
no, no.
not speak up when I think people are doing something that's really wrong.
No, no, no. Look,
Maybe a character flaw.
I get it, but it's also like okay. On one hand, it is a self-preservation thing,
Yeah.
but it's also like it is also in my mind what I would see as a um like it's a strategy thing. It's a problem that you have to strategize around, and like or like find a workable solution for because again, this kind of comes back to my kind of philosophy on like my general philosophy is that like we can talk hypotheticals till the cows come home, but like if i can't if I can't at some point relate this to a normie so that it makes sense and it like can potentially make them see something in a different light, then all of it's kind of pointless.
Well, the first
Like,
step is for somebody has to speak out against it. Everything that
yeah,
we
of
could
course.
look back in the past and say it was terrible that we did this. It was totally acceptable to all the normies. And I'm not saying this is like any of those things, but I'm just saying that I think it's important to call things as we see them and to not just accept a narrative because so many people are bought into it. If it's nonsense, it's nonsense.
Yeah, I think that like I mean I'm not saying that like I do think I
And
do think you calling it out is like it's worthwhile in the sense that like you have a point to make and you're making it, right? And honestly I'd say for me, for example, like I kind of recognize that this whole entire topic is like one big poison well,
yes.
right? And unfortunately it isn't. You're kind of in a tiny minority.
Yeah, and
Right.
I'm in an even
um
smaller minority. I think that a lot of people in on like quote unquote my side of this are
mm,
right for the wrong reasons. I think that I'm one of the
mm,
few people that are having the points that I'm having for the right reasons, which
yeah,
is why I think
yeah,
it's more important for me
yeah,
to not shut up
and
about it.
yeah, no, 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 okay, and that's okay here, and this is like the other thing that I was saying the other day on my stream is that like if actually you're right, like if these points coming from you, hold on, give me a second. Yeah, sorry. So these points coming from you, you know, like they sound more legitimate, than from someone like Food Shops who
Yes.
has like a rather obvious bias or motivation
Yeah, it seems
for
self-motivated, self-interested to do that, and I'm just like, I don't
ex-
really care for it. And I kind of have to
right,
qualify the fact that I do like shit that other people would be uncomfortable with, but like not that. So like,
not this particular shit, yeah.
yeah,
But you understand what I mean with the
yeah,
poison, right? Like,
yeah. This is like pure retard juice that everybody's
yeah.
sipping. It's crazy to me. I see
I
people
mean,
that
yeah,
are
I would,
right for the wrong reasons, and I see people that are wrong for the right reasons everywhere I look.
yeah.
It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, and I think I mean it's just it is a I would just like maybe encourage you to like see that it is a problem that like is going to be reinforced by like essentially social norms, right?
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't really and also like it's really hard to. I mean, it really is hard to get over the whole emotion thing. And really, what I would want to focus on is like the studies, right? Because like that's the thing that
That's
will
pedophile
eventually.
talk.
What's that?
I said that's pedophile talk right there. I
Well,
actually,
yeah.
since you brought it up too, I was gonna say I think sometime this week I'm gonna host a watch party in my Discord of Mr. Girl talking to Dr. James Cantor, the world's foremost expert on pedophilia, just
Okay.
so that people can get a better idea. It'd be really nice to have you there,
Sure.
so at least I know one other
When are you doing
intelligent.
that?
I'll put a. Are you? Do I have you tagged as a stream enjoyer on in my? Let me see.
Maybe.
Let me look at your roles. No, I don't. I tagged you as one, so you'll get the
All right. Cool.
notifications. I got to just check out my schedule is because I just sort of decided this when you were talking about not having the data. Because I think it's really important to hear what Dr. James Cantor has to say because he is the authority, and like it's I respect him a lot because not only is he the most world's leading expert on it, but he's also a gay man who has a lot to lose by saying positive like things that aren't like condemning pedophilia because people associate gay people being pedophiles all the time. So
Sure.
like he has to really believe it to say it.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be interested because like look, okay, I like, is this going to become like my burning cross? No, right? Like I'm not but yeah, I guess my thing is that like it's such a huge it is really truly one of those things that is going to essentially rub up against a lot of people's like feelings, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I would say that like I think for some people you could perhaps say like, oh, okay, you're actively denying essentially you're denying reality, or you're denying data or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the like there's just so many problems. Even if they believe in the data, they can't admit it because it is kind of suicide, right? To to
Sure.
admit this.
Well,
And
I don't think it's going to hurt
also
me as bad as it
because
would hurt most people, but I also think that
yeah,
whenever anything happens that most people are going to disagree with, if people don't do anything about it, we can't ever really learn or grow about anything. The very first thing that I ever did on my stream that wasn't just like me dicking around playing Magic or like Elden Ring, I interviewed somebody from the Magic the Gathering community who's a woman because I want to understand why people. This is more about me than this like the lolicon topic, but like I wanted to talk about why it's so hard for women to get along in these like male dominated nerd communities and how we can make it better because
sure.
you would it seems like if you talk to people they're like yeah like we all know it's a problem, and like certainly a lot of these nerdy guys who have no girlfriend don't want to push women out of the community, but all their actions seem to be geared towards it, so we have this emotional thing that is just doesn't line up with any of the logic.
Sure.
And so this was something that like was I could see for myself, and so when I see a problem that there's something just like wrong happening here and it doesn't make any sense to me, I feel like it is necessary to address the things based on what's really going on, because I just don't want to. I don't ever want to think that I was complicit with something bad happening and it might have not been as bad if I didn't speak up. That freaks me out.
Right. I mean, I think this is the other thing too, right? And
Thank you.
maybe and this kind of like, and I'll say that this is maybe the last thing I'll do because I gotta go take my laundry out of the dryer before the laundry room closes for the night. But like, I think and and I would actually be interested in that, like in that talk and the studies and stuff, because
Yeah.
as far as like the whole POCD stuff is
Yeah.
concerned, right? What's like in my mind, and again, this is something I was saying the other night. We don't have confirmation that like this is something that like was actually recommended by the therapist, or like we can't
It
get
does
this
sound
therapist.
weird.
It is such a
I would have lied and just made up a better reason than that if I was in that position, even if it was true. because it's so
I mean,
unbelievable.
it it does not make sense. I think like somebody basically um who I don't know if you watched, like Rezzy's like stream where food shops went on and like had a bunch of people talking
Yeah, it
to
triggered the
them.
fuck out of me because a lot of
Yeah,
those people are super bad faith, and this is what kind of got me amped to talk about this because I was like, this is the kind of
sure,
shit that I hate.
sure. But like, did you who was the person who fuck, I don't remember their name. But the person who basically had been in therapy for not POCD but
Mm,
for something very similar.
yeah,
Who even food shops had said like, actually, like, you're probably like the best person so far to come on and talk to me about this, because like you
yeah.
actually seem to like know what you're talking about. Like, I mean, it just seemed like it's not something that essentially is done, right?
Yeah, it does seem
Um,
rare. It could happen because therapists, I think a lot of therapists do try things that they think will work that are unorthodox.
sure,
I think a lot of them kind of think like, well, I know what's up. So it's not
sure,
impossible. I don't think it's that likely. Um,
sure.
I think it's a very weird thing to say, even if it is true. But
Yeah,
I talk to food shops and I understand some of the things that they've said and done because I have regular ass, no additional number letters OCD.
sure, sure, sure.
And people seem to think they know what it is all the time. They're like, well, you don't have OCD because like you have a messy
You
desk.
don't
I'm
do
like,
this.
you don't have
Yeah,
any fucking clue what you're talking about. Or every single person I tell I have OCD go, oh, I think I have that a little bit too. And they talk to me about how they have to clean their house. I'm like, I hate you.
sure.
Like
Yeah,
you're
no,
just
that's not what it is.
I tried to explain to you why I'm gonna be weird and embarrassed in certain times, and you're just explaining to me how you understand because you're a regular human being.
Yeah,
And food shops actually made me understand that my compulsion for truth telling and oversharing is part of my OCD because I'm usually
sure.
pretty good at picking up when I have a new thing, like a new little
Yeah,
ritual that I do. And that one went
yeah,
over my head completely. When they talked about that being a part of theirs, I was like, oh my God, how did I miss this? And like, I get like autistic person beating their head on the wall, devastated when someone close to me lies to me too. Like,
right, right,
I can't cope.
right.
And so, like, some of the things they say really resonate and it makes sense that this is an OCD symptom, but not everybody's shit is the same either. Not all therapists are the same. It's weird, it's sussy, but like, maybe their commitment to being honest about things they shouldn't be makes me give them a little bit of leeway, though.
Yeah, it's just that I think like I
But I
don't
wouldn't
know.
bet on them.
It right. I think that's really my problem with it, is that like there's just no way to like verify this. And because of that, plus the whole like motivation thing, like of course they are going to say something like this. Um, it just I guess that's why really kind of going back to the studies, like I'd want to see the studies,
Yes.
like is this even something that's like even talked about as an experimental thing,
Yeah.
or like yeah, I don't
There's a
know.
big problem
So
with doing studies is because like, it gets really ethically murky when you're exposing people to these kinds of things. It's like,
mhm,
we stopped doing psychedelic research in the United States because at a certain point it got really hard to explain to ethics boards why are we giving people these drugs that alter their mind because we just want
sure,
to know. So it is
yeah,
really tough. But so I think the best thing when we have a really big shortage of data, the best thing we can do is opt to listen to what the experts have seen and what their experiences are and the conclusions they've drawn because they're going to have the closest thing to a study that we can possibly get. And I think in some instances, experts have better insight of the broad picture than like one or two studies is going to give us anyway.
sure. I mean, I think that like the studies though are just like my first step, right?
Yeah, always,
I
always,
think we should.
always.
Yeah, I think that like even if you have studies in hand, it's still going to be a huge uphill battle before we can even get to the point where, we're having like I don't know. Like you have to. It goes through a fucking process,
Yeah,
right?
why do you care so much about
Before
this
it can
study, you
even.
fucking pedo? Even
Yeah, like
there was
exactly.
an expert that talked to Mr. Girl about the subject, and he said, every time I speak publicly about this, I get death threats. And
Yeah,
like, this guy is somebody who works with pedophiles. Like, he's the best thing that we got protecting our kids right now, and people want to kill him for saying like you're wrong about how you think about them. Like maybe we shouldn't be trying to kill the people that are making these people as much better as they could be. I don't know. Seems kind of crazy to me.
I mean, it's like I can't. On one hand, like people are going to be emotional because of like the subject, right?
Yeah, of course.
Again, I kind of go back to like it just needs to it just comes down to like the strategy that you take with something like this. And you know, I don't know. I understand it as well, right? Like as much as it does frustrate me, right?
Hmm.
Like I understand it. You can't just like drop it on someone. You can't just like like okay, so actually it's really funny. The fucking the I was telling my husband because I had this tab open. I learned what dogwarts is the other day,
Oh, nice.
right?
It's a pretty good
And
argument.
you know, I just like I just told my husband. I was like, "Hey, do you know what dogwarts is?"
I had the
And
same
I told him,
conversation with my wife.
and he was like,
My wife was like, "No."
he was like, yeah, he was just like, no. He was completely flabbergasted. Like, what are y'all talking? What are
I'm
you
like, "This is
talking
a
about?
Thursday conversation, okay?"
Exactly, right. And in my and I had to explain. Well, you know, like a lot of what we end up talking about is like fucking hypotheticals, right? So like obviously at
Yeah.
some point the more unhinged hypotheticals come out to play.
Did you have to
And
explain it's a metaphor for veganism too? Was the disgust response so strong that went right over?
I mean, yeah, no, I didn't even get there, right? It was just because it was just like like the incredulity
Yeah,
about like how kind of how casually I said it, right? Like that was the part that we got stuck at.
that's
And
awesome.
to be honest, I can't blame him, right? Because like this is like completely off the wall for like a normie, right?
This is my. You're talking
So
about my life right now. Talking to my wife
yeah.
about shit.
Yeah, no, and then like listen, okay, this is why I stream so that I can get all of this stuff
Yes.
out and
Yes.
not like torture my husband with half of the stuff that's on my mind. But anyway, I do have to go. But I will look forward to the tag. I'm assuming you're gonna tag like whenever like you started, or are you gonna tag like
I'm gonna tag when the day's gonna be, and I did give you the
okay,
stream enjoyer tag. If you
sweet.
don't want to be notified when I have streams, just let me know and I'll figure something out.
All right, sweet. All right, cool. I'll look forward to it. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Talk to you later, Ice Beans.
Yeah, have a good rest of your night.
You too. All right,
Bye.
guys. Bye. My dinner's done. I'm gonna wrap up now. Elk did bring up we do have a psychedelic research documentary. Or psychedelic not a documentary. I haven't watched it yet, so I'm not 100% sure what it's about. I know it involves some kind of some things about some psychedelics. Um, what was I gonna say? Um, yeah, I know Saxon, but you didn't answer me when I asked you when was good for you. Did you? Let me check. I'll look. Let's see. There's this one. Yeah, you didn't. Uh, well, I said you had to. I told you DM me and we'll set up a time. So you made it halfway. Anyways, expect an announcement this week about when I'm gonna start doing the relationship advice show. Which, by the way, I did get to confirm Mr. Girl is going to be a guest host for one of the episodes. Me super cool. Um, I also I'm going to have Tuna Chip as one of my guest hosts. I'm gonna try to rotate out guest hosts every week. Somebody who is also either very well experienced with relationships or is currently in a long-term relationship, who's gonna have an expected different kind of advice than me, so that way anybody who calls in can get more than one perspective and see which advice is going to resonate the most with them. Because the goal really is to help people out. throughout my life, I've been the people that people talk to about their relationship issues a lot, and it generally it seems like it's worked out pretty well. So I'll be announcing when that. Wait, I haven't, not yet. Oh, I'm pretty certain it will drag a bunch of streamers in to talk about it afterwards. They see your videos on it. Oh, that'd be really cool. But wait. Oh, have I done DMT? I have done DMT 2 times. I'm trying to think of how I can say this in a. I don't know if that's like against TOS to talk about, but it was different than I expected it to be. It changed my life forever, like most people say for sure. I think I'll actually when I do the stream where we're watching the video that Elk's talking about, I'll talk about a bunch of my experiences. I've thought about doing a couple of streams just talking about the different kinds of drug experiences I've had, because I've had a lot, and I've gotten some really interesting insights from it. I got some like cautionary stuff. When I was younger, I did a lot of drugs, a lot of them, a lot of them. So many drugs. I don't anymore at all. I don't even smoke weed anymore. But I think part of the reason I don't is because of how much I did then. I feel like I mostly just got out of them what I wanted. Like, I guess it's not true. I take my Adderall only as prescribed. I vape and I have caffeine, and that's it. But yeah, thank you, Elk. So look forward to. I'm going to try to squeeze that stream in this week. I'm going to be announcing when I'm going to start the relationship advice stream, which I know I already had a few callers interested, ready to go. And at least one day this week, we're going to do an Umbrella Academy, which is pretty niche, I know. And I do want to announce, did we change for me after psychedelics? I'll have to think about that, maybe. But yeah, I'll save that for then too, after I give it some thought. One of my bigger announcements is I am going to be hosting a. Well, I just wanted to make sure I was being honest, Lance. I don't do drugs like I did drugs then. Like, I'm not doing anything to like achieve the same means. I don't have a date for it yet, but I'm going to be hosting kind of in the same vein as the Roast of Chud Logic, but in a much more, I think, clever and organized way. I'm going to be hosting a mock panel where I'm going to play Wick, and Wick is going to be like the target roastee. And I'm going to have other streamers, including Wick. Wick will be there, playing other streamers and caricaturized versions of those other streamers. So it's it's gonna mainly be like a silly panel where people are roasting Wick, but also poking fun at other streamers as well who are being played and all that. And I'm kind of leaving it up to whoever they want to be for it. But I'm gonna be playing the role of Wick. It should be fun. I did like the Roast of Chud Logic. It was just kind of a mess. So I have Tuna Chip working behind the scenes as producer on it. So it's going to be really nice. Other than that, that's it for now. If I stream later, it'll probably be something a little bit more chill. But yeah, thanks for stopping.